Hello, hello, everyone. Whoever has joined or is here. We're later than we normally are. So people may not know that we're going live.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome yet again to the show. Another episode of the True Crime Talk Show brought to you by Thought Riot Podcast. My name is Brendan.
And I'm Malia. Thanks for being here tonight.
Yes, it might be a little bit of a slow ramp up because we're like way off our time. Nothing was going right today. As most of you know, I have another job, and that job was kind of a wreck today. So what that means is I'm super happy to be here with you guys. This is some of my favorite parts of the day, and I'm excited to get back into one of the hottest topics and the main case that we're covering right now, which is the Idaho4 case. I feel like mainstream media waited a day to comment on this topic further, and then today a whole bunch of people talked about it again.
I mean, yeah. Look, this alibi isn't going to stop being talked about for a long time now.
It's so strange to me because there's nothing in it.
Well, there's a lot of people just either making fun of it because they're like, oh, Bryan Kohberger saying he was out looking at the moon and stars and making fun of it and saying it's nothing. It means nothing.
Yeah. The moon and stars are super funny.
I thought the moon and stars were pretty cool, but
I was joking.
Yeah, people either think it's absurd and has no backing at all, which I don't know how you could think that, or people think it means that he is 100% innocent.
I just think there's nothing there. And I'm being honest here, okay, with everyone. And again, we say this all the time that for whatever reason we get classified in the pro burgers court, and I'm not. This is what I expect to see. Now, this tells us what this is like the setup for the shot. Okay,
this is showing us the direction they're planning on going with one aspect to the defense.
Exactly. So this is just the setup. So like the more I think about it, the more people that come out and they're like, oh, this alibi, it 100% is going to prove him innocent. Listen, I'm sorry, and I'm not trying to be aggressive about it, but that's just not true, okay? All the people that are coming out and saying, oh, this alibi has him dead to rights, he's guilty, you can tell. Look, I'm not trying to be aggressive, but that's just not true. It doesn't show anything. It tells us what is going to be coming, and whether this is a Grand Slam type document and alibi for the defendant is all going to be based off of the supporting evidence that are going to be coming attached to this. It depends on that 100%. Otherwise, this is just a bunch of words on a piece of paper with nothing proving anything.
Right. They're not actually presenting evidence to say like, this is why we believe this. This is why we know he was over here and not at the crime scene.
Yeah.
We need to actually see that evidence first. And I just saw Nancy Grace released an episode of her little show that she does about the alibi. And I wanted to, we'll pull it up here in a minute. I wanted to play some small pieces of it to talk about it, because she has a cybersecurity expert on to talk about the alibi.
Cybersecurity.
Yeah, to talk
What?
about the alibi and to
Like,
get
just
into
to
the
be an
tech.
opinion. Wait, what?
Yeah,
To get into the tech
a
side of
little
it?
a little bit. Like, he said he didn't want to get into the tech of it because I know he doesn't understand it, just based off
Yeah.
what he said. And they brought up the car again and how the car's going to be a bombshell, and showing where he went that night.
You got to have a thorough understanding of networks to understand how this alibi can help or hurt him.
Which he's a cybersecurity expert, not a network expert. But
Yeah,
I don't know how that works.
There could be enough experience, enough to tread water, I bet. But I would expect to see a cybersecurity person more about like coding commands, background, metadata, and things like that.
I wish that's what he talked about. I
Yeah.
don't know why he didn't. Maybe, I mean, it could be because Nancy Grace pushes her people in one direction. Like, if she asked you a question, you answer that question, or else she's
Yeah.
mad at you
Yeah.
and she's gonna yell at you and cut you off if you're not answering her question.
Yeah.
So she doesn't let people just talk about what they want to talk about. So
yeah.
which, honestly, a good host of a show who has a panel on does direct the show. Just maybe not so harsh, Nancy Grace, but
Yeah, I've said this a million times, and I catch crap from the viewers every time I say this, but listen, I respect Nancy Grace. I got nothing against her, okay? I just don't agree with her 99.9% of the time, but that doesn't mean that I don't care about her as a person and think she could be a benefit to news and true crime in general. You know what I mean?
she brings her own, value, of course.
Here's the thing. In order for me to be able to debate people, in person or in my mind by myself when I'm driving alone, there's got to be somebody that has an opposing view to me. Okay.
Yeah.
And I like watching content. I watch more content from people who don't agree with me than people who do.
So I got a lot of updates. There's a lot of things going on that I've been following. We don't have to get into all of them. I definitely want to go over the alibi again and play some of those clips from the Nancy Grace show and one from Banfield to kind of, kick off a conversation about this, because that's what's been the most fascinating about the alibi being released to me, is all the different reactions. And I find it fascinating, all the mainstream media people that have been touting these false facts everywhere that Bill Thompson has been talking about, the false facts that he was a stalker, that Bryan Kohberger was a stalker, and that he was following one of the victim, or two of the victims actually, on social media. They clearly either didn't watch the hearing and listen to the expert explain why these questions are important, even though they're not factual and the truth, or they just have very selective hearing and don't want to hear the explanation, which is really, really interesting. His explanation should make anybody who didn't understand it understand why. And this is not anybody who's involved in the court system, for the most part, should know these surveys happen in major high profile cases.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Especially someone like Nancy Grace. She should know that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I think it's really important to just remember that there is a certain element of entertainment there. And part of that entertainment is dramatic value. So when you're watching mainstream media like Nancy Grace, you just expect some of that, right? You expect some of that. So That there's only one main thing that really bothers me about mainstream media. The only thing that bothers me, because I can deal with the drama, I can deal with the hype, I can deal with the show, I can deal with the characters, I can deal with all of that. The one thing I don't like is that they do all of these things in this way, but then blame the true crime community who tend to be more factual based, unbiased, not always unbiased, but more fact based, more fact finding based. But then they blame the misleading statements and information on the true crime community.
Mm-hmm.
You know? What are we getting into? Anyways, what are you looking up?
Nothing. What I was looking at, so Jennifer Coffindaffer posted something earlier where she said, basically, I'm going to be straightforward. Hashtag Bryan Kohberger's alibi is a bunch of malarkey. I feel bad for the Goncalves family, father of murdered Idaho student Kaylee Goncalves, and all the victim families for this slap in the face. I say slap in the face because there is no alibi. And yet, Bryan and Ann chose to concoct this ? What will they say about the time his phone was off? What program did their expert use? What about BK's car seen on video? There is a lot of money.
She's talking about.
Yeah, there's a lot of money and notoriety at stake for this expert. For me, I trust the cast agents who work these cases day in and day out and who have devoted their careers to analyzing cellular phone data. They don't get paid to have an opinion. It's part of their life's work and day-to-day workload. And I quote...
Wait, what? Cellular expertise is just like part of the workload? Like, oh, shoot, it's 12 o'clock. From 12 to 1, I need to go focus on cellular networks.
Yeah, I don't know. So I guess this is another person who's in mainstream media. We can talk about their opinion on it. That's her opinion on it.
Yeah.
So I quote tweeted it and I said, the cast report still isn't finalized or handed over to the defense. We must remember this.
You know,
I would really love to hear from someone who has worked with FBI cast before. Is this delay normal? Doesn't seem it would be, since the report should have been done before the speedy trial date. So I ask why. It is a lengthy process of mapping, in-field testing, and peer review, but the major delays in completing the process make it seem like it wasn't a priority. Again, why? If Bryan Kohberger can back up these claims, it is an evidence-based alibi, not based off the words of a witness, like the supposed gold standard in Idaho. Witnesses are notoriously unreliable. Human memory is notoriously unreliable. So what is better than objective scientific data to support your alibi? We also are very sympathetic to all the families involved.
Yeah, I don't want to talk to someone in cast, actually. Cast is not going to give you the best experience. There are a million people out. I don't know about
a lawyer who's been involved in cases.
There's a lot of people out there that have a lot more experience than I do when it comes to networks. I wouldn't even classify my experience as being 50%. Like, if there is a scale, I don't think my experience hits 50% of what is possible of understanding. Who I would like to talk to is the manufacturers of the network antennas and understanding so like we talked about, is this still on here? Yeah, it is. Like we talked about yesterday, right? And hang on. And the two towers and how those towers overlap and how that can essentially function like that for GPS as well, right? So if these were the two towers, then that would be the location and the overlap. So I would like to talk to the manufacturers of the antennas and the technology behind it, either them or the network, the coders, the ones who code the network abilities and command prompts for the network. And I think those two people would have way more experience than I would, night and day, dude.
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Hold on, let me finish. I would be considered like a simpleton in comparison of experience and knowledge. But they should be able to give a very, very, very detailed explanation on the reliability percentage around being able to locate somebody through background application data through networks, whether it's RFT radio frequency, whether it is network technology, whether it's any of those. I would love to talk to one of those people, but I guarantee you there are not a whole bunch of them out there.
Okay. I am not talking about any technicalities. I am simply talking about the process of getting a cast report finalized for court. And somebody commented back and said, if you've actually watched cast testimony, it's known the peer review process takes ages. It's the final report for the jury. No bombshell difference from the draft. Highly doubt that. Highly, highly, highly doubt that. We don't know what their draft even looks like. We have no idea what the defense has in their hands as far as a draft of a cast report. Is it Payne's draft of what he thought a cast report would look like?
I don't know. I don't even think it matters. I really don't. That's why I'm saying I know that argument has been out there for a while, but look, his phone wasn't connected to the network during the time of the crime. So like, do I want the cast report? Absolutely. I want the cast report for the entire time that Bryan Kohberger has been in the Washington area since June. But cast is going to do nothing, okay? If people still believe that cast report is going to bring some kind of evidentiary experience out there, not what you're saying,
people want to know if it's stalking. If there was stalking.
Yeah, people that are believing that there's going to be some kind of ramp up, some kind of evolution to the evidence using the cast report. That's not going to happen because of this, okay? Because of these lack of towers right here, period. If you guys need to wait to get a thorough understanding of like how many towers are out there, I totally get that. I'm all for, taking information as a carrot and then verifying it as more information comes in. However, I just don't see any value in the cast report, especially after hearing this, okay? I think the cast maybe could have been more reliable if he was in the Moscow area. Now that it's not, I'm not positive that the cast team has the same kind of experience that that somebody who specializes, another good expert would be startups, application startups. Those guys are insane coders, dude. Like the private sector in new application startup companies right now are leading in tech right now. So that background application data that we're looking and or expecting to see based on this alibi now, to me, is more important than the cast report. It wasn't before the alibi. I've been fighting for the cast report the whole time. But now that the defense is saying that they're going to prove that he was elsewhere in an area where we already know is going to be rough coverage, we already know has some rough triangulation opportunities. I want a coder. I want somebody who builds these applications. I want an expert on who can tell me the reliability of the GPS locations in these applications.
Yeah. And if there's a way to find out if he made the command to turn his phone off, I want to know that too.
I mean, there is.
It doesn't prove a lot, but it proves something. It will spin a narrative.
You got to remember, if he has an Apple phone, look. If I'm Bryan Kohberger and I got arrested for a crime that wasn't me, and then I realized that I wasn't being listened to, would I give them access to my 6-digit telephone password on my iPhone? No way. No way. That's like, sorry, dude, I'm not going to help you convict me. You know what I mean? If you are going to try and convict me, even though I'm innocent, and I'm not saying Bryan is, I just mean if I was in that situation, whether I'm innocent or guilty, if he's guilty, obviously you're not going to give them the code. Okay. That's a given. That's why I'm not going down that road. But if you're innocent, I think there's a lot of reason why you wouldn't give the code also.
Yeah.
Because if you feel like you can't trust the people that are convicting you and doing the investigating, then why give them the code to your phone? You know what I mean?
Right.
So if he hasn't given them access to his phone, then we're not going to ever know that command. We just won't. That'll just be some evidence that we're not going to have access to.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that's a good point. But I would be curious to know that. So, I mean, yeah, if he wouldn't give them, if he has a 6-digit pin, which you would think he would if he's in tech, but I don't know. I don't know. If anything that the state has alleged about Bryan Kohberger is true, and he committed the crimes, and he took his phone with him, and he took his phone with him during stalking these people, like, which I don't believe is true. I don't think that he stalked in the way that it's been reported in the media. That's pretty dumb.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
well,
would
what do
he
you
be
mean?
smart enough to think ahead?
So it's dumb that the media has been portraying him as not being like technologically intelligent.
I think the media has been spinning this narrative of how this crime happened in a way where he's an incel who's obsessed and isn't tech smart. Because anybody who's tech smart isn't bringing their phone with them while they're stalking somebody 12 times in a row and then turning it off to go to the crime scene. Like, none of that fits with who he is. None of it.
He's been trained to.
What he is trained in, which is cloud-based forensics. None of it. And people have been saying this from the beginning, that it doesn't make sense. So it makes, like, if what the state is saying is true, that he did do all of that, then he's an idiot. So would he have a 6-digit pin on his phone? I don't know. But I just, that's why my assumption is what Ann Taylor and what Masseth are saying is true, that there's flat out lies in that PCA, and that whole narrative isn't true. Even if he's the guy, it can't be true.
Yeah.
There's no way it went down like that.
Yeah. Wait. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, can you pull up the video?
Yeah, no, I will. I agree with you. And that goes back to like what I was saying earlier, because we're kind of in this intro jumping all over the place, and that's okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with that because of how many different people have been commenting on the alibi again. And, you know, I wasn't even expecting to bring this up yesterday, and now we're talking about it now for a third day in a row because of how much stuff is getting brought up. So like during this conversation, I want to be able to continue talking about the potential approach of the expert, any questions that people have. I know some people have been posting all over our social media and Discord with questions, technology related questions that they want to know if I have the answer to, which I don't know without reading them, but I'll check them out. Two, I want to talk about his car and reapproach the tracking technology that we currently know of at hand. And I want to talk about some of the tracking technology that is possible, but hasn't been brought up yet. You know?
Okay.
So, okay, we want to go to the Nancy Grace video. Okay, which one?
Look at her face. Look at the thumbnail they gave her.
Yeah, which one? This one?
Yes.
Okay.
So the first timestamp is 9:35.
All right. Good.
Yep.
Room on YouTube. Chris McDonough, of course, the state, as you know, from handling so many homicides, never has to prove motive. But in many people's minds, there should be a motive presented to a jury, because how could a jury believe that someone that doesn't know these 4 victims would just randomly choose them and murder them to, quote, see what it feels like? That's going to be a tough sell, especially now that we find out the state has also learned the defense is bringing on cell phone and radio frequency data to refute claims Kohberger was in the area of the murders at the time of the murders. The state is getting torpedoed left and right. Now we've lost motive, the stalking.
Wow. She's actually saying.
Yeah, Nancy, I mean, one of the most
This is a
interesting
hit.
things, and it may just be semantics, is when Thompson was arguing with the expert witness that the defense put on, he mentioned that there's no evidence of witnesses being stalked. And I thought that was a very interesting choice of words versus victims. This may be a cover play as well by the state, because you've got to now think about, we've got some amateur astronomer, i.e. Kohberger, exercising in the middle of the night, yet his cell phone shows up 12 separate times around the crime scene. It's
kind of
just
messed
not right.
According to
man.
the defense, though, Chris, they're going to bring on cell phone experts and radio frequency experts to prove, according to the defense, that he wasn't there. Do I believe it? No. But would a juror, just one, believe it? Maybe. This, as we are learning, and correct me if I'm wrong, Caitlin Hornick joining us from the U.S. Sun, but the pollster, the surveyor that was hired by the defense to call at least 400 prospective jurors, asked the jurors about stalking. And we heard prosecutor Bill Thompson say, you knew that wasn't true. And you asked people, you put it out there in the ether that there was stalking. And the guy responds, I don't care if it's true or false. He
All right,
actually
pause.
said that.
Okay, so that's the delusion I'm talking about right there, is like, you're bringing that up. Okay, like,
I'm kind of surprised at Chris McDonough's comment.
yeah, it's off-putting.
It is off-putting. No, one, like, why make fun of him with the stars and moon thing? I just don't get
Everyone's
it. Like,
doing
I know
that.
I was joking about the stars and moon earlier, but like, I know a lot of people that care a lot about astrology, astronomy, the sciences in the universe. I don't know. I just don't like that. I don't like that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it.
It's not even not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just like pointless bullying. Like, it feels almost like bullying. Like, even if he is an amateur astronomer and he likes to go running in the stars, like, why does that make him lesser than?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. It's, yeah.
And I say that for someone who's guilty. If he's guilty, I say the same thing. Someone is lesser than and deserves to be put behind bars because they committed a crime against their fellow humanity in their country. You know, they broke the law. That's what makes them need to go behind bars, not because they have some kind of personal interest in astronomy.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. Weird.
Okay. But
anyways,
that's the kind of delusion I'm talking about, is at the end there, just to talk about that first, since it's freshest in our minds, is the whole thing about it not being true, you know, about him stalking the victims, and still throwing shade at Bryan Edelman, the expert, the surveyor for the defense. Why are we still doing that? He explained it very well. And all she does is play the one part in her show where Bill Thompson's saying, and you knew that wasn't true. And he's like, yeah, I knew that wasn't true. And I don't care. That's not the point. And no explanation. They never play a single explanation of why he doesn't care if that's true or not, because all he cares about is the biasing of the information, it causing bias in the community. And all he cares about is getting that answer, and that people who didn't recognize the case, okay, they're asked case recognition questions first. If they don't recognize the case, they never get asked those questions, meaning that information is never disseminated to them, which I wouldn't even consider that dissemination of information. It's a question, not a statement of fact. And any adult who doesn't understand that, absurd.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really weird to me to only play that one part and to be so biased in that way and not play his explanation and to not even talk about that. Like, it's just any little thing to like character assassinate the defense in this case. I hate it because I think there's plenty of red flags in Bryan Kohberger's case without doing any of that. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So again, let the evidence speak for itself. Now, at the beginning, I was surprised. Nancy Grace did seem calmer. She did seem like, wow, they're getting torpedoed left and right. Like, the state's case isn't looking great. They lost the motive. How are jurors going to believe that he just randomly got up in the middle of the night, drove over to these victims' house and killed them so savagely without knowing who they are and having no motive? Agreed. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
How does he even know they exist? What's the point of doing that?
Yeah.
I think everyone can agree this crime does not seem in the moment of like, it doesn't seem like a moment of passion. Okay. It seems calculated. So I don't know. I think that the survey did help a lot. I think the survey was needed. I think it's important. I think I believe what the judge is going to do with the survey is he's going to agree to Mr. Edelman's proposed compromise, where he allows him to ask all of the questions and do his survey in the other counties, but add that little caveat to the beginning of those questions to let everybody know these are not statements of fact. They are questions. And then, have you read, seen, or heard? Yes. I think they're going to add that on. And I feel like Judge calmed down a lot when he heard the explanation of the expert. I felt like he actually heard him out, and that I think he's going to let it happen. Yeah, I think that, I don't know. It's interesting in the beginning hearing Nancy. I don't know. I felt like her tune was changed just a little bit. Talking about they're having an expert come on and bring the cellular data to prove that he wasn't there. Now, my question this whole time, okay, they have this expert, which honestly, he seems like a great expert. For the most part, and what's even more interesting is that he only has testified in the past for the prosecution. It was the most recent episode of Thought Riot Podcast, which was 2 nights ago, where we went through the whole alibi. We read it, and we went through all of his experience, which is listed underneath the alibi. And we looked him up and, talked about the expert and everything. And it was listed on there. We talked about how he had never testified, or at least he only started in 2023 working defense cases. So I would think he would be somewhat selective of what defense cases he picks. And I wonder why this one. Does that mean the information is that good? Did Anne have an in with him somehow? Or like, what opened him up to taking this case? Also, I wonder, and I said this when we first talked about it, what about the other things? Like, does that mean if they can be so bold as to say he wasn't caught on any cameras and no cameras can prove Bryan Kohberger was there, Again, what does that footage look like? Did none of them catch a license plate at all? We were talking about this last night. Were the windows tinted on whatever car this is passing around Moscow through cameras that night? Were the windows tinted? Could you not see through them? And I do believe you could tell at night. I really do. Especially after seeing some of the camera footage from around the area. I do think you could tell if windows were tinted at night in that area. And one thing that we're going to see in this Nancy Grace episode is the host of Body Bags podcast come on and say one thing they can't get past is that DNA evidence, the octillion number. Yeah. That, even though I think it's BS, it doesn't mean the jurors are going to think it's BS.
Yeah.
I do think that's going to be hard for the defense to get past, but I'm curious, what is their argument going to be to get past that number? To get, like, are there enough holes they can pick in this DNA? I think there are. I think they're immediately going to start arguing the fact that it's touch DNA and there's no fingerprint. It's like literally dust in the wind. And I think I would be really fascinated to find out if they tried to find a connection between Bryan Kohberger and the victims.
Yeah.
Not a direct link, but somebody who knows Kohberger or goes to school with him and also knows the victims and has been to their home.
Yeah.
Do you think that's possible?
Maybe.
Like Jasmine Kernodle, for instance. Did she ever meet Kohberger when she going to WSU? Xana's sister.
Yeah, I honestly...
Has she ever come into contact with Bryan Kohberger and then went to their home?
I have no idea. We just have our videos being messed with a lot tonight. I'm going to have to up what I was doing again. It only helps our channel, so... But yeah, I think that it needs to be considered from all aspects. I really do. Do I think there is any way to build a connection between some kind of personal relationship to connect the victims? I think that's very possible. I don't think anything should be dismissed. I've said that from the very beginning, that nothing should be dismissed. And I think that's part of the reason why it's so important for us to come out and say that we aren't a pro-burger. Once I started saying booger, it's just automatic. We are not pro Bryan Kohberger. I just need to say his name all the way out. We are not pro Bryan Kohberger's innocence, okay? We are pro evidence. Literally, that is it. Pro evidence and
pro justice. Yes.
If evidence comes out tomorrow that is undeniable, I'll be the first one, you guys, to say, look, this evidence is good. Like, okay, let's put it into a perspective of technology. So if tomorrow we had a cast report that came out, okay, and that cast report showed definitively, without a doubt, let's just say that for whatever reason, there is a hidden tower, which there isn't, but let's just pretend there is a hidden tower, okay?
Okay.
And in that hidden tower gives them 3 overlapping towers for the house. And they are able to definitively prove that Bryan Kohberger was sitting outside the house on 12 occasions for multiple hours at a time. Okay. I'd be the first to be like, yeah, that's good evidence. That's good evidence. And this is why. This is why.
Wait, if he was doing what?
if the cast report came out, showed definitively that Bryan Kohberger sat in front of the 1122 house for multiple hours at a time, okay, I would be the first one to come out and explain to everyone why that's technologically sound evidence.
Okay.
To prove, like, I am not here to prove his innocence. I that is not important to me.
But the biggest concern that we've had from the beginning is that they're not going to be able to prove that he was at the home, that they're going to have, they're going to have, right. They're going to have this large radius of saying, well, he was in this area. And that's how the PCA is able to claim he was in the area of the home. But really, he's in this wide radius where he could literally be like a mile from the home.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
He could be a football field from the home, and you have no idea.
Yeah, but I'm not looking to create a justification of why that can't happen. I'm just trying to prove that it's really important that we're evidence-based, where I'm not coming out here to try and give a reason why that's impossible. I am out here looking at the evidence in any situation. Any situation, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But
all right, let's roll the next clip.
Okay, what's the next clip?
1335. And this is a pretty short one.
Okay.
You know, Dr. Edelman is, you know, he's a pollster. Why he was making these phone calls and kind of, you know, planting this information remains to be seen. You know, why he went so far and, you know, to say that there was stalking and, you know, but these false claims, it doesn't make sense. And I think it's really up to the jury and the prosecutors to figure out what the motive was.
Pause.
Kohberger's official.
She said it remains to be seen. So remember the last clip we ended on, she was saying essentially that the expert was disseminating this information to the public, even though it was false. And I feel like it's weird. It's weird to me that a lot of people are saying this, they're agreeing with Bill Thompson, and Bill Thompson's argument in all of this is absurd to me. It is not logical. It makes no sense. It's not backed by science or research. It's literally just an opinion based off of nothing. Do you know that the expert literally sat up there? I don't know if everyone remembers this part where he said jurors, once they are out in the public and have seen this information, even if it's false or true, doesn't matter, and they have decided he is guilty in their mind, even if they come in and say they're not going to be biased and that they're going to put that aside, he said there is no evidence, like all the evidence points to your brain doesn't change just because you're sitting in the jury box. Their brains are the same. There is no change. They're going to be biased if they already decided he's guilty. No, the point is if they already heard this information and decided he's guilty, then they can't go and be unbiased in the jury box.
Yeah, and that's the argument of why they're wanting to move this trial, because the amount of impact that this case has on a social, on a local level, is too great of an impact. It causes them to want this trial to be done once. It causes them to want it to be done the first time and no other issues with this. So yeah, I hear you. I understand that's what the expert is saying, but everything's percentage based.
Okay, and that's a good point. Thank you for posting that. And he said afterward they can't remember what info they heard in court and what info wasn't in court. That is important. The fact that jurors can't remember what they heard before they were in court and what they actually heard in evidence in court. That makes sense to me. That would be me, even trying to be as unbiased as I could. The information would totally get muddled in my head. What did I hear from media? What did I hear in court? I don't have that great of a memory.
Okay.
It would totally get muddled. And he cited research on it. And I think it's important. And I think the surveys are important because why even take a chance?
Yeah.
Why even take a chance on somebody who already in a survey said they believed he was guilty?
Yeah.
I think that's too much of a risk. And I think it's ridiculous that somebody would get on there and comment on this and act like, oh, it's yet to be seen why he would do this. Meaning the expert in the survey.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird to me. What is the point of that?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's kind of offensive. Like it makes it feel like they don't want people paying attention to what it was actually said. They only highlight the part where Bill Thompson's really giving it to the expert and then act like he provided no explanation. If nobody watched that hearing and only watched Nancy Grace's coverage on it, that's exactly what they would think. Like, oh my gosh, this expert did something terrible. He's like spreading misinformation and gave no explanation. I don't know. I think that's kind of crappy. It's not very balanced.
Yeah, definitely possible. I don't know. My mind just wasn't there going back that far back to that expert. My mind has been on the technology and alibi stuff. So I don't know. I need to chew on that for a little bit.
Okay.
I think opinions are important no matter how you feel about it. However,
that wasn't an opinion. It was just a lie. It hasn't remained to be seen. He explained it very well.
I mean,
even if you don't agree with him, it was still explained. And you're only highlighting the part where he says that he knew it was fake and spread it, but not his explanation. That is not fair. That's not balanced. That's not objective.
I mean, it's subjective, so it's an opinion. Evidence-based would be like numerical values that are repeatedly provable. So or like
playing what the man said.
The expert's evidence is the objective evidence proving it to be true. So I don't know.
All right,
it's gonna
so
take me off.
1815. Yeah, we'll just get to the alibi part then. Let's see what this. I don't remember exactly what this was. If it's not about the alibi, then we'll go to something else next.
Prosecutor had to say about the stargazing alibi.
The way I understand this is, and this is in the so-called alibi, not really an alibi, but, quote, he was out driving during the late night and early morning hours of November 12th to 13, 2022.
Mr. Kohberger has at least now stated that his alibi is he was out driving around that night. We knew that already. And if that's his alibi, so be it. What the defendant has still failed to do is to comply with Idaho Code 19-519 and Idaho Court Rule 12.1 that specifically requires a defendant to provide identified names of witnesses who will be called to support the alibi along with their addresses.
Okay. It's hard to make out what Judge is saying. I'm not stuttering. His name is Judge John Judge. It's hard to make out what he's saying. You know, he's kind of tilted down. I'm just grateful that they let a camera be in the courtroom so we could hear and see a little bit of what's going on. He says, the way I understand this is, and this is the judge talking, the so-called alibi. The judge says the so-called alibi. Don't say that in front of the jury, Judge, don't. He goes on to say, the way I understand this is, and this is the so-called alibi, not really an alibi. The judge said that, not me. His words, not mine. Not really an alibi, but quote, he was out driving during the late night and early morning hours of November 12, 2022. The judge is commenting on the alibi. He is calling it a so-called alibi, and he's also stating it as, quote, not really an alibi, because it's not. It's not. That said, the prosecutor comes right back in after that and states that even though He's claiming he was out driving. The defense has not complied with the law. Tara Malik, the law is that if you are presenting an alibi, you are specifically required to identify witnesses or corroboration to support your alibi, along with their addresses. And the state has to do this too with all of their witnesses, so that the state can test the alibi. In other words, speak to the witnesses, test the scientific evidence. Let me pose you a question, Tara. Since there's not going to be a witness to state they saw Kohberger out driving around that night, let's just go to the chase. There's not a witness. I'm wondering if they're going to use cell phone data to suggest Kohberger was elsewhere at the time of the murders, looking at the stars, because that elsewhere is out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it seems like that they're going to rely on cell phone data to say he was out at a park stargazing. But, again, where is this park, and is the park within the route?
I mean, they're
the
wrong.
circuitous kind of route that we've already know
okay.
and talked about that he took to get over.
Yeah, so
they're
look,
wrong. I just want to be clear that cell phone data is not RF technology. To be clear, you guys, and I know we've covered this now 2 days in a row.
Parse it out. Explain it.
This is why I've spoken about it till I'm blue in the face, because it is this is not just common knowledge, right? And nobody is expecting it to be common knowledge. The only reason I have knowledge of it is just because I've worked in this industry. But cell phone technology is specific to the network and provider that your devices are connected to. So that would be your US Cellulars, your Verizon, your T-Mobiles, your AT&Ts, your Crickets, your any of those in between. Okay, so
that's what the state is using. Also, maybe some background app data. We don't know yet.
Yeah, but what they're saying here, that they're depending on this cell phone data. I don't think that's what they're going to be depending on. Otherwise, they wouldn't have an expert in radio frequency. Okay, radio frequency is GPS and background application data. So in order to have radio frequency technology, there has to be a registered is it FCC or FAA? I think FCC chip, GPS chip that is registered with the government and the FCC that is in every device that utilizes GPS. That GPS chip feeds and gives information to the background application data. If you turned off your cell phone service, okay, you took out your SIM card, you cut off your service, you just have a phone that's charged, that GPS chip can and will still function. The same as your Bluetooth will, the same as your Wi-Fi will, the same as long as you have a connection, iMessage, cloud services, all of those things will still function without cellular network connection.
Yeah, so you could not be connecting to any cell towers at all, but still your GPS chip's going to work. Still, you can access Wi-Fi and use all of those internet things with zero cell phone data.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They are two different
things.
It's
an important point to make, because people think they're one and the same and they put them together in the same box, even though they're not.
Yeah, it's just important to make the distinction that your cell phone is not just singularly a cell phone and any connection to it comes to the cell phone. No, it is the cell phone, which is the manufacturer that created it. So let's just say that Bryan Kohberger had an Apple device. Okay, so he has an Apple phone with a GPS chip in it that is purchased and installed by Apple and registered with the FCC. And then you can add cellular network service to it. Even Elon Musk has his new cell service that they claim uses the GPS technology, which I won't get into that. But yeah.
So is that
very important distinction and difference?
Instead of turning the phone off or putting it in airplane mode, could Bryan Kohberger have put it in a Mylar bag? Like,
yes.
Like Brian commented?
Yes, that would absolutely work.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
And that would shut off everything.
I didn't know that.
That blocks RF, that blocks cellular network, that blocks
Literally
Wi-Fi,
everything?
Bluetooth, everything. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It blocks everything. In the same way that there's a big push in Hollywood, in California, with a lot of these stars and movie stars out there. They're creating copper rooms where they are lining rooms with copper foiling that blocks all network signal. So they go in there and, you know, meditate or whatever, and nobody can reach them.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see.
So
Let's
what does that
say-
mean? That means that Bryan Kohberger intends to call an expert to the stand to testify that his, Bryan Kohberger's, cell phone was outside Moscow on the night the students were murdered. Joining me right now is a veteran in cybersecurity, Bill Slater, cybersecurity expert at IT security consultant. Bill, thank you for being with us. What does this mean? What are they saying? What do you expect to happen?
Sure. Well,
I know who he is.
one of the things that occurs when you have your cell phone, even if it's turned off, it
Pretty
will
sure
ping
he's out of
towers,
Chicago.
and that's on the cell phone grid. So they're going to try to prove that his cell phone was pinging towers that were not in the location where the crime occurred. The other piece of evidence that I think would be extremely interesting to relate would be the data recorder that's installed on every modern vehicle in the last 6 or 7 years, so that there's a hard drive in there that there we go. Yeah, there's a hard drive in those cars that indicates what the car's been doing, and that a lot of people view that as a breach of privacy.
Hold on,
Pause
let's
that.
pause. Look at his dash, guys.
Oh no.
All you have to do is pull up this footage and look
Actually,
at
I
his
shouldn't be-
dash.
I shouldn't be
There
mean.
is no navigation system. You know what? Nancy Grace goes on to make it very distinctive that there is an optional navigation
No, there's not.
package that you can add to the
No, there's
Elantra,
not.
and she's acting like it's possible Kohberger has it. But here's the thing: if you look at his car, you already know he doesn't.
It is not possible. It is not
It's-
possible.
It's aftermarket.
it
You
is
can only get it
aftermarket.
aftermarket.
Correct.
You cannot get an optional package.
It's aftermarket, and the standard aftermarket that then comes with the GPS chip built into this big screen wouldn't even fit in Bryan Kohberger's car. So there's two versions of his car here. Hang on. There's two versions of his car here, and the version where you could get the aftermarket GPS upgrade into this vehicle does not fit with the version that has the AC vents right here. The other one has AC vents pushed at. Oop, they can't see my mouse. So these AC vents do not allow the updated GPS computer to be installed in this car. The other version has them out here a little bit further that gives the room to upload that GPS and updated head unit that comes with the GPS chip. His car, in any package, any of them, do not come with hardware, GPS location. The only thing that it comes with is a black box if there is a problem, and that black box does not have GPS in it. 100% reached out, and I'll post the video while we're watching or talking, but I'll post the video in there. We reached out to Hyundai and spoke to somebody at corporate, spoke to multiple dealers. That year does not come with that as a stock option.
Yeah. You cannot get it from the manufacturer. It has to be aftermarket. And his car, just by looking at it, you can see it is completely stock.
Yeah. And remember, the reason why we know this, 100% know this, is because every single GPS chip has to be registered with the FCC. Every single one of them. Is it FCC or is it FCA? I need to look that up. I might be getting my acronym wrong. But every single one of them are registered. Okay, so you can go on the website, the federal government website, and see exactly what cars have a GPS chip in them, because they have to be publicly registered. It is not a choice not to.
Somebody said FCC.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right.
That, and then somebody said that
acronym
model of
crazy.
black box only records 30 seconds at a time, which is very possible. I honestly think this car is it's not very capable of recording anything, and I think we're going to see that in court. It hasn't been mentioned whatsoever. This car has not been mentioned in anything except for them literally just searching it and taking things out of it. And I don't think it's going to hold any evidence. I truly do not. Now, if we get proved wrong, okay. But I mean, I don't think there's any possible way we will be proved wrong.
Yeah, and understand, you guys, like, I see people that are saying, no, that's not possible. It does come with an option. Listen, I'm not promising to never be wrong, but when we talk to somebody from Hyundai, we talk to somebody out of this country at the main home office manufacturers, and that year did not come with an available option for GPS chip. It wasn't available in Elantras until 2 years after, is what we were told. But if someone somehow shows information that proves that's wrong, listen, I'm not trying to be all knowing and right, you guys. I am just telling you that we did extensive research to find out.
Yeah.
Extensive research to find out. So just make sure, if you are doing research to figure it out, that you are going to either a .gov site or the Hyundai direct site. Okay, you cannot look at aftermarket. Aftermarket is not a stock option, and his car is stock. Okay.
I mean, I wish he did have a car that tracked him.
Me too.
This is not a good thing.
No, it's not. I wish there was GPS
and you guys,
in his car.
if he's innocent, I bet you he wishes his car tracked him too.
Oh, geez.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. If I was innocent, I would be like,
Is it this one?
I wish I had a newer car.
Is it this one or the other one?
I
don't remember.
Know. We've done several videos on the car.
I'm just going to share both of them. So, okay, here we go for the first one here, I think. I think it's the one where the car goes past the screen. So, do I have a car driving past the screen here? No, I don't. Okay, that's not going to be the right video, you guys. Hang on one second real quick with me. Well, did I lose it or something?
I think.
Oh, there we are. Here we are. All right, good to go, baby. This is the one. Okay. So the video that I just posted right now is the one that that gives the evidence, and I have sites linked in that video, you guys. Hang on here. I could just do this, couldn't I? Here we go. All right. This is the aftermarket only. All right. And I think, oh, that reminds me. Okay. So sorry about that. What most people are getting confused with in these Hyundai Elantras is, for like 6 years before GPS was installed in this car, they had the connect option, which means there is not a GPS chip in the car. It connects with your phone and utilizes the phone's network and GPS chip. That is not the same, okay? That is not the same. that means that if his phone is off or not communicating with the network, then the car is not. The car does not have its own registered GPS chip. And let me see here. Look, there we go. This is what we're talking about. That car, all GPS chips are tracked, you guys. All GPS are tracked. Hang on.
Okay.
And then look, this is the official document. So Elantra 2017 to 2018. It has the standard Gen 4 navigation with GPS chip. And then none before that time. Elantra GT is 2016, 2017. Elantra Hybrid 21, 22. So yeah. No GPS
so let's
chip before that.
Now let's talk the Burla report. So one of our chatters just mentioned the Burla report, and I looked up Burla, and there's an article on it from Cyberscoop that says, meet Burla, the little known company that can pull smartphone data from your car. Meaning, if your phone is connected to your car, if it's plugged into your car in any type of way, even if your car doesn't have a GPS chip, your phone is feeding that car information. Your text messages, it's feeding your car phone call logs, it's feeding your car GPS location and all kinds of other things. So theoretically, yes. And I believe we talked about this in that video, actually, where you talked about, well, if his phone is connected to the car, then yes, maybe they could pull information from his phone from the car. Didn't you say that?
I don't know. Say that one. If his phone is connected to his car, then they could pull information from his car. No.
Yes, there is a company that can do that, and it has been done.
No. So
the car is recording information from his phone, and yes, I know that for a fact because one of my old cars recorded.
You're confusing it though. It's not the car. You are, because it's not the car that's recording information. There is a connection between the device, the phone, and the car. So the car can effectively put information on the phone, which would then transmit that to a network. But without communication in the car, that is impossible.
No, if your phone is plugged into your car, and I know this for a fact that your car records information from your phone. If it's a certain model.
I have no.
So
to me, that doesn't make sense. You're losing me.
For instance, my old car and my new car too, but it's a bit different.
You're talking about what I was just talking about.
Yes, kind of. So your phone, you could connect it and it would store your call logs so that it's easier for you to be able to call somebody by just using the buttons on your steering wheel.
Right.
So you could pull up your call log and, call mom, or, you could read a text message on the screen, or you could see your GPS from your phone on the screen.
Yes.
So
that's what I was just saying.
This company, Burla, can pull information that was stored on the car's computer and use it in a court case.
If there's a computer.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's impossible without a computer and a GPS chip. If there is no computer in the car, there is no storage.
Okay, but even Bryan Kohberger's car has some type of computer.
No. Nope.
You're saying his car has no computers.
That is exactly what I'm saying, based on his whatever screen it's called. I
thought engines run off computers now.
I mean, okay, so you're using multiple definitions of what a computer is. Does his car engine have a computer that keeps the electronics functioning and everything powering correct? Yes, but it is not in the same way that you have a computer that is actively and constantly recording data and communicating with other devices around it. It's not the same.
Okay.
But yes, can you take a phone on a car that had that Apple Connect or Samsung Connect or whatever, and upload your contacts to the car? Yes, but you need to understand the second that you take your phone away from the car is null and void. So again, it's not tracking the car. It is tracking the phone, and the phone is plugged into the car. It's not like just because you plug your phone in, that car now all of a sudden is trackable. No, it's only trackable if it has a GPS chip that is registered with the FCC. 100%. And what's funny is when we covered this last time, you were asking literally the same exact questions. It's not possible. You have to have certain hardware to do these things, and you can't supplement one with the other. Just because a phone has these things doesn't mean you can plug a phone into another device and all of a sudden both of them have them.
Right. I understand that. I'm going to read more on exactly what this company does. And I want to know what year of car this stops at. You know what I mean? Like,
what do you mean? Every car that if a car can communicate with a phone, then it can save data.
And you're saying Bryan Kohberger's car couldn't communicate with his phone?
Yes.
Yeah, with the type of dash thing he has, the screen.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it can to me as either. I agree.
Yeah, but yeah, even if it did, I mean, are you meaning in a way where if they can't get into his phone, maybe they can pull any data that's on his car when it was plugged into his phone?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly what I meant.
Yeah, I understand that. That's why I was trying to clarify, because I think the way that you were explaining it was just confusing me. But yes, that could happen depending on the settings of the device in the car.
Okay.
But again, his car isn't that car. His car does not have a GPS chip in it. It does not have a registered computer in it. It is the basic of the basic.
So
version.
his car doesn't have Bluetooth. It doesn't have anything like that. If he wants to play music on his car, he has to plug in an aux cord.
Yeah.
Old school aux cord.
Here. This is his car. Identical. This is his car.
The top one. Yeah.
This is. Yep. This is the aftermarket option that is not stock, and the only option that installs a GPS and computer chip in this vehicle. It is aftermarket, and it voids your warranty. Everyone needs to remember that. That is an important factor. If it was an option to put in the car, it would not void the warranty. It voids the warranty. Look, identical. Top. The only thing different, I think, is I can't tell if this bottom button is right here.
Okay.
Yep. So he probably has a CD player.
I don't know. I think that one you were showing might be a newer version than what he has even.
Maybe. I'm just 100% positive on this. I'm never 100% on anything. Let's say I'm 99.8% positive that his car is it's not an option, you guys. It is not an option. I wish it was. I really, really, really wish it was. That would clear all this up. We would be able to know if he was there or not, you know?
Right.
You know what's funny is I still use auxiliary cords because I have battery issues so bad that I don't want to link it up to my car with Bluetooth, because like I need every bit of battery juice that I can get. So
all right.
And that's a way you can play whatever and have it off. So
right.
Expert to corroborate the cell phone expert. So what does that mean? A radio frequency expert.
Well, all of our cell phones operate on radio frequencies. And so they would be looking for that expert to say that not only did the cell phone ping these towers, but it pinged it on the frequency that the cell phone was rated to ping on. So it's like a signature.
Okay, I'm just a JD. I'm not a cybersecurity expert. What are you saying? Could you say it in a different way?
Sure. All of our cell
I
phones
think Nancy knows he's
are
wrong.
radio transmitters because they're wireless, and that's how they talk in the network. The way that it talks is, I won't get into the physics of it, but basically, it sends out radio frequencies.
Physics.
It sends and receives signals on radio frequencies. So the person that they want to corroborate that would say, yes, the pinging on the cell phone towers matches the radio frequency of his phone.
Okay, that made better sense to me. So the radio frequency used at the towers equals or is compatible simpatico with the radio frequency his phone would have been using. Okay, so is it correct to state, Bill Slater, that a radio frequency expert could corroborate a cell phone data expert, or are they one and the same?
They're not one and the same. And
Okay.
the radio frequency expert would be supporting the data expert, who would be reporting the timing of the receipt of the signals.
In this area, anybody on the panel jump in? We've all been to the area. We've
So
seen the
he
area.
said
The defen-
Hold on.
that phones are radio transmitters.
Yeah, I heard that. I just wanted to hear this last thing that he was saying. Hang on. Sorry about that, guys.
They're not one and the same. And
Okay.
the radio frequency expert would be supporting the data expert, who would be
So the radio frequency used at the towers equals or is compatible simpatico with the radio frequency his phone would have been using. Okay, so is it correct to state, Bill Slater, that a radio frequency expert could corroborate a cell phone data expert, or are they one and the same?
they're not one and the same. And
Okay.
the radio frequency expert would be supporting the data expert, who would be reporting the timing of the receipt of the signals.
In this area, anybody on the panel jump in? We've all been to the area. We've seen the area. The defense is arguing that Kohberger was driving south of Pullman, where he goes to school at Washington State University, and west of Moscow. Okay, hold that map, Liz. Kohberger's residence on the left. I drove it myself. It's about a 8.5 to 12-minute drive from Kohberger's apartment to the crime scene where the victims lived on King Road. Defense claiming Kohberger
is
driving
that it?
south of Pullman, and that's Pullman, Washington, and west.
Okay. So I see people talking about the radio frequency. It doesn't use radio waves. Oh, that's such a loaded question, okay? Because yes, it technically is on the frequency range of radio waves, and all frequencies are on a range of waves, okay? But an RF technician that is focused on that is GPS. Now, when you look up the difference between a GPS, which is radio frequency waves, it is two completely different technologies. And the reason why they're creating a distinction between the two is because they are different technologies. So it's radio waves travel at the speed of light, okay? And you have your base radio wave. I don't know if everyone wants me to get into the science of it, because it's very in depth, especially with our current networks right now. Our current networks right now have the ability to have multiple phones in a chain frequency that is communicating with the network tower. So like this expert is focused on what would be fog data, what would be background application data, and what would be GPS data, okay? Which is very different from your 4G LTE, 5G, ultra capacity, ultralight frequencies. So it doesn't change the fact that when you're talking about a network, you're dealing with a network frequency in the cellular when you're talking about the cellular sector, okay? And it is considered on the radio wave, and the radio wave is a pretty broad range of radio waves. But that's not what this expert is, you guys. You can tell based on his experience. What do we got next?
That's all you had to say about what he said?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
listen, you can tell I don't want to put this guy down. I know who this expert is. I have heard about him before, and I've watched when he's been when he's came on other panels before, and he knows his stuff, you guys. I don't want it ever to seem like I'm making it make someone appear like they don't know what they're talking about. This guy is a security expert, okay? So when it comes to like back end coding and device specific knowledge, dude, he is amazing. You know, just because he doesn't know the difference between like this expert and how they are going to highlight and target or highlight and locate them on the network technology or the radio wave technology, I don't want him to seem like he doesn't know what he's talking about, you know?
Yeah, I wonder why she can never get a network expert to come in and talk, like,
Because
or
when
somebody
you're part of that industry, you're not allowed to talk. That's why I'm not allowed to share any information. Nothing, you guys, ever. I cannot tell you anything about my work.
Okay.
I bet you that's why.
So okay, so basically radio waves to a radio tower would be lower frequency and longer wavelength as compared to cell phone waves operating at higher microwave frequencies.
Yeah, like I said.
So that, because I was wondering, how does it not get confused then? If they're both radio waves, which it's just a type of frequency. I understand that. Like it's a type of radiation. It's a type of radiation.
Do you remember that chart in science when you guys were learning
gamma
about
rays, X-rays, radio waves?
Radio waves have some of the broadest differences of waves. So can you oversimplify cell phone network technology and GPS technology to say they are all radio waves? Yes, you can. They are all on the radio wave scale. Spectrum. Yes. Along with tons of other types of radio waves. That doesn't make them the same, though. And I didn't want to get into the science of why they aren't the same.
But I think people want to know that.
I
wanted that explanation. I think it's important. And
that's why I just gave it, though, a second ago.
Yeah, but it wasn't that clear cut.
Okay.
I wanted to know that because it's like, okay, then if it's the same thing, then why have two different towers? How do they not get confused? Like, I think it's important to know that. And that was a good basic explanation. We don't need to get any deeper into it.
Yeah, if I start going into the science, you guys, trust me, you're going to check out, because all it is like numerical values, decibel points, and how each wave acts and reacts when it comes down to square mileage of coverage or RCCs or any of those things. Like, it's not worth getting into it. It's better talking about it in a simplistic fashion, because it helps people who don't have a lot of knowledge in like how radio or network technology works not get confused. Sometimes, I don't know if you guys are like me, but when someone's giving me a lot of information, there comes a time where I turn off. Like, I can't absorb it because I don't know what's going on. I lost you at step number 2 and you're on step 90. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, when we're talking true crime, I mean, and this isn't an episode about the science of that. If it was an episode about the science of that, then we could go into that because people know what they're getting into. But when you're just here to talk true crime on the True Crime Talk Show, most of you most people don't even need to know that ever in your life, exactly how it works. I mean, I probably wouldn't absorb it, just saying, like, we're here to talk true crime. But yeah, I wanted to understand that because it was confusing for me.
Here you guys go. So this is cell phone. This is my cell phone technology. And it's still really interesting, you guys, but not too boring of science. Hang on.
But I think it is important to distinguish that when we're talking RF technology with this expert, and that's what he specializes in, that's what the company this expert built was an RF tech company that is specifically referring to GPS with cell phones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not cellular data.
Mhm.
They're two different things. Because when you have somebody say, well, phones are radio transmitters, and it's basically the same thing, then that gets confusing. So I think that it was important to talk about the differences between them, and that these are two different techs, even if they both use radio waves.
Yeah.
There's a reason that cell phones transmit to a radio or not, I'm sorry. There's a reason that cell phone data goes to a cell phone tower. And there's a reason why your GPS chip emits radio waves to a radio tower, which then goes to a satellite. And that's GPS.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. No, that is spot on 100%. Yep. Absolutely.
Okay. Can you pull the video back up? So
it's already up.
The next one you're going to go to is 3050. And I think this one's pretty short.
To Bill Slater, if there's only 10 miles between the two spots where he was allegedly looking at the stars and the murder scene, can a cell phone tower differentiate between the two locations?
Yes, absolutely it can. And it's come to light since the whole Edward Snowden thing of 2014 that the only time your cell phone is not tracking you is when you take the battery out. And a lot of people are unaware of that, Nancy. They think if they turn their cell phone off that they're not trackable, and that's not true. The only way that device cannot track you on towers is to remove the battery so they can't talk to the towers.
The judge said,
oh,
we were muted. So I said, that is not the only way. And you said
a Mylar bag.
yeah. And I said, yes, that is a way that you cannot be tracked, but that's not what I was getting at. What I was getting at is just be in Moscow, Idaho, and don't have enough towers.
Right. That's a great point. There isn't enough cell phone towers there to triangulate.
Yep. You can only be located if you have the tools to locate that device.
And the added benefit of background application data and the GPS. If you take all of these things and put them together in this geo-blended data, then it can get more precise. But cell phone tower triangulation isn't going to be enough in this case, which is what we've been highlighting all along. So
that's why we've been harping on geo-blended data this entire time.
That's what we need in this case.
And that's what we've been saying, that look, you guys, based on our experience and information and research into Moscow, Idaho, they do not have the towers. Remember, they need 4 for a proper triangulation. They need 3 to triangulate to an efficient, down to an efficient level. And then they need the 4th for quality control. So the background application or geo-blended data is the only option here.
Right. And we harp on it and repeat it over and over because it's really important in this case.
It's a make or break.
It is a make or break. One of them, at least. But so what about this whole thing with him saying you can still be tracked even when you turn your phone off?
What? I mean, yeah. Yep. We've talked about that. Yeah, you can still be tracked with the phone turned off for sure.
So what is it emitting to? The GPS, the radio towers?
It all depends on your settings. It all depends on your settings, and there are apps out there that send a last location. There are apps out there that will still track accelerometers using just a micro fraction of your battery. There are quite a few things out there that it needs to have the ability to remotely turn on and off, which always leaves a little bit of access to, for a charge. However, if you know how to turn those things off and edit and turn those off, you can turn those off. Don't think that like everybody is tracked all the time, no matter what you do. Now, if you're a target for the feds, like you're doing something wrong, can they gain back end access to your device?
That is
while
not
it's
what he
on?
said.
Yeah, he was talking about Snowden. That's exactly what he's talking about. Can they gain access from the back end into your device to where you are located 24/7 at all times, even when your battery's off? Yes.
He's saying everybody can be tracked with their phone off.
Yeah, and I'm saying no.
Not everyone can be tracked with their phone off.
No, it's not software that just comes preloaded in your phone. Like, you have to be targeted to have that happen. Or, you know, maybe if you're somebody who leaves your phone on all the stock settings, maybe I don't know. I'm so engaged with the settings of my device to the point where I plug them into computers and look at the coding. I just know, like, I look at those things. I can't even tell you how standard or stock comes, you know, on phones. I don't really deal with them.
Okay. So you could be tracked with your phone off, but
Yes.
not always, not 100% of the time.
Yeah, unless there's new tech out there, you guys. I am not a know everything. I
Right.
don't. I only know what I know.
And he's a cybersecurity dude, so he would probably know more in that
Yeah.
department.
Yeah,
honestly.
I think that there is the accessibility to do that to any phone.
Right.
But I don't think it just inherently does it at all times.
Okay.
Is what I'm saying.
Okay. We're almost to the end, guys.
He's between a rock and a hard
And
spot.
here,
I want you to
you know what?
analyze everything Slater has told
If that were the case, then feds would be able to get into iPhones, and they can't. They cannot, as long as you have a 6-digit PIN.
Okay.
It is impossible. The amount of possibilities in numerical values with six numbers is too many for an aggressive brute force attack. So it's impossible.
Okay. I'm gonna go to the bathroom while you watch this little part. Just you'll know when to stop
but
it
also,
when he's done talking.
We are poking a little bit of fun at the moon and the stargazing alibi, but think about it. What else is Ann Taylor, the defense lawyer, going to say? He was a party with all of his friends. That ain't happening. They got to come up with something to make sense to a jury why he may have been out driving around. The only thing they can do is refute the cell phone data, because that video surveillance, I don't think it's got his car tag.
No, it doesn't. But that's all they can do, Nancy, isn't it? You know, when you begin to think about it, they're muddying the waters with all of this digital back and forth. Here's the one thing that they cannot overcome. Get this number in your mind: 5.37 octillion. That goes to his DNA profile. That means that the chances that it was somebody else are at that range. It's amazing, isn't it? Look what I have here. See? It came off the snap, Nancy. It came off
do that again.
of the snap. Yeah,
do
sure,
that again,
absolutely.
because that's exactly where the DNA was found.
Yeah, and I don't think that he was necessarily, planning on this, but listen, I don't know if you could hear that, but this has got, and I'm fascinated by this. I have been since the case. This little ring right here where the snap actually actuates, it's a ridge. And so if you're actuating it with your thumb and you drag your thumb across it, anything can be collected in here. We think about touch DNA. If he's got sweat, that's coming off of his hand, it could be deposited there. Both are sources for DNA. One's richer than the other. But, when you begin to think about these numbers, Nancy, and just put it in perspective, I'm not a real fine math guy, but that's 27 zeros, Nancy. That's an amazing number. And so the reason I'm saying this is that I don't think they have anything else. And they can parade all of the experts up there that they want to. But the one thing you can't get away from at the end of the day, yeah, they don't have the knife, but they've got the sheath, and his DNA is on it. And that's a heck of a mountain for them to have to climb, relative to this. And one more thing, and I'll shut my mouth. The brutality of this, you used the term, he murdered 4 people a little while ago, Nancy. This was not murder. This was pure on butchery using this combat knife.
I was saying, geez, man, I'm going to turn that off because, yeah, I got it. And we got it. And that was gnarly. Like, he's going hard into that. That is that's wild stuff. It's interesting that felt like a deflection into an easy topic to me. Okay. And there's, again, I'm going to reiterate this because there's quite a few people that hear me question everything and think that I must be for Bryan Kohberger's innocence. Not true. Not true. Not true. Not true. I question everything because that's the only way that we can guarantee we have the right guy. And I'm not willing to take the risk that there could be a fifth victim and there is a homicidal maniac out there right now. You know what I mean? I would rather be sure that we have the right guy by questioning everything than guess, you guys. I don't think there's any benefit in guessing, in the guesswork. And it's interesting that he's bringing up the DNA factor because that there's no new information there. That's why it feels like a deflection to me. Everything he's talking about has been talked about till we're blue in the face. I'm talking about myself too here, right? A lot of these topics have been talked about so often that like we got it. There's literally no more juice to squeeze out of it. You know what I mean? And the DNA and sheath is one of those topics. So when you have a topic like the alibi, where you have a whole bunch of new information to go through, but then you're backstepping or sidestepping into a topic that has been talked about until, you know, everyone's blue in the face. I don't know. It just feels a little bit like a deflection into a topic that is more definitively beneficial for the prosecution. But interesting. One thing I do want to say, just because I think it's important to make sure we have all the facts as factually possible, is that touch DNA does not mean that he touched it, right? We've talked about this also until we're blue in the face. Touch DNA just means that it is the DNA-based skin cells that are coming off of your skin and hands. You could blow like I just did, and hundreds, if not thousands, of my touch DNA cells just went all over the place, right? So it's definitely interesting. I'm curious to see what Malia found interesting in that topic. But I can't wait I just can't wait to see the actual evidence within this alibi. That's what I'm dying to get, you guys. I'm telling you, this is a topic we land right back in the middle again, right? Anybody that believes he's guilty, there's nothing in this alibi that cosigns or supports the belief of his guilt. Anybody that believes that Bryan Kohberger is innocent, there is nothing in this alibi that cosigns or supports his innocence. Nothing on either side, okay? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I think the only way, if you're somebody that believes Bryan Kohberger is guilty, okay, the only way that you can have a theory, a fact-based objective theory or evidence supporting the fact that he's guilty is being able to openly compare and contrast other opinions and theories out there. Like any theory's got to be able to stand on its own two legs by itself without being toppled over whenever you introduce new evidence into the theory, because a fact a factual based situation isn't going to change no matter what evidence gets introduced, right? Unless it is fabricated or manipulated. So for people that think die hard 100% he's guilty, listen, I think you should just be open-minded to questioning how he's guilty, because I don't think this guilt story is it that's in the PCA. I think it's very possible he's guilty, but he's not guilty with the PCA story. Right. That is not possible. Right. That is not possible because of the evidence around the cell towers in the alibi can be proven untrue. We proved it was not true. So I think it's possible he's guilty in some sort of way. I absolutely do. Mm-hmm. Because if he's not, and he just has bad luck, whoa, that's like the worst luck I've ever seen ever. That you happen to be the one guy that like wasn't in this area, but was out driving and phone was off during when they believe and or are claiming the time of the crime is. Like, those are a lot of factors that are head scratchers. They are.
Yeah.
But it could also
I mean, because
be
I thought the whole time,
coincidence.
I thought the whole time that if he were innocent, that there had to be something like he has admitted he was out driving that night.
Yeah.
And he got caught by cameras, and him being caught by those cameras and is one of the only people out at that time, and his car being a white sedan, and then a white sedan just so happening to roll up in the neighborhood, even if it, come to find out it's not exact, it doesn't exactly look the same or any, you know what I mean?
I do.
Like, who knows
a coincidence.
It's a real, it's a big coincidence.
Agreed.
But I thought maybe that could be enough for like the cops to be like, that's got to be the guy. He pulled into town at this time with this car, and then a car pulls up in this neighborhood around this time that is a white sedan like this.
It is a heck of a coincidence. And if I was a law enforcement officer, I would look at that evidence and be like, okay, so we have what we believe to be a Hyundai Elantra white in this neighborhood at this time.
So
we now have found a man that is, within very close driving distance to this crime, who owns a white Hyundai Elantra, who happens to be out at this time. But when we do the data dump, his phone isn't in the area. So his phone must have been off, okay? Because how likely is it, do you have a man driving at this late of hour in a car that matches the description that we found on the video? Like, listen, that's good evidence, you guys. If you're a law enforcement officer doing an investigation and you connected those dots, I would look at that and think, man, that's good. That's some serious progress. And Bryan Kohberger would have the worst luck ever.
Well,
literally.
I think, somebody asked, well, no, not worse luck, set up. Like, he got set up. And if
that's such a big setup, man.
But I'm not saying that's not possible. I totally think it's possible he was set up. Totally think it's possible. I think it's absurd to say
ahead of time
not
to be used as the scape.
Maybe, I don't know, or after, or planned after. I don't think that's what's important.
How big of a conspiracy are we talking here?
What? It depends on how deep it goes. I have no idea.
Okay, I'm just curious where you're setting the standard.
There could be really a white sedan driving by for real that night, and so they were like, okay, let's find a guy who matches the description that has a white sedan.
Yeah, I put conspiracy on the thumb. I am a firm believer that it is possible in this situation that Bryan Kohberger could be set up. However, let me define before you guys fly off the handles here. I believe all it takes is one or two officers to create a massive conspiracy-esque situation and investigation.
Let's look at Dr. Moore. Let's look at Dr. Moore.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
3 officers mentioned in that document, they fabricated timestamps. They made it look like it was his car and it wasn't his truck.
Absolutely.
You know, there's so many things in there
Because
that they
believed it was
fabricated
him.
because they believed it was him, and they went off of
Yep.
the wife, what the wife said. I think the wife has something to do with it. I truly do.
I don't know.
I don't know, but there's just a lot of red flags there, and I think she needs to at least be looked into. Because I mean, the issues going on in that family, I think, yeah, she needs to be looked at. I think any police officer who's being honest
Yeah,
would say she needs to be looked at based off statistics and the shady, what appears to be shady that was going on in that situation.
I don't even think we need to like highlight that what she's doing could be taken as shady. The statistical evidence is so strong alone that like 70-something% of people who are their lives ended early from at the hands of others, it tends to be somebody within their relationship circle, immediate family, like over 70% of the time. It's absolutely insane.
It is.
So no matter how bad it looks for a victim's family member, they all always need to be looked into, in my opinion. And that is just, look, that's just statistics, baby. Like, sorry if that feels offensive to victims' family members, but like, math is trustworthy, you know?
Yeah, objective science data should be trustworthy. And you know, I saw somebody mention that Bryan Kohberger is just like a nerdy guy, a skinny guy that couldn't have pulled this off. I don't agree with that.
Dude, he's bulky.
He is not a nerdy skinny guy. He was a boxer. It's clear his nose has been broken. He works out like crazy, like a lot.
Yeah, his chest is big, dude. He's got some pectoral muscles.
He was going on long runs and things like that. I think Bryan Kohberger was very fit. I do not think he was just like a nerdy skinny guy. I mean, this is a guy who was super overweight and lost all that weight working out and got into boxing and cared about his health and went vegan. Like, no way. He's not just some nerdy skinny guy. He might be nerdy, but he's, I think, also like takes care of his body. Not that necessarily matters for him completing this crime, because I think
he showers regularly.
Why are you asking me that?
I don't know. I was just curious.
Isn't he like an OCD clean freak? Probably showers like 5 times a day. Just, I don't know. He probably showers once like everyone else. But I think that the time, how long it took to commit this crime is harped on a bit too much. I think it is possible for somebody to do this crime in that amount of time. And I've been saying this for a really long time. You guys have probably heard me say it a million times, but there's probably new people who haven't heard me say it. Yes, this crime could be committed in that amount of time. What I take issue with is obviously the lack of evidence trail. This amount of time with a lack of things being spread into his car when that is the getaway vehicle that he supposedly speeds off in so quickly after this crime is odd. And it not being at his house or anything like that, it just doesn't make sense.
No, I agree with you. I think that there is
and the amount of time it takes him to do that little route they were talking about from getting to Moscow to Pullman is exactly an hour and 10 minutes. And that's exactly when he is seen on camera in the Pullman area, supposedly arriving back at his house. So, I mean, that also means he didn't go anywhere after that to get rid of the evidence unless it was the day after, or well, that day later that day, going to the Clarkston-Lewiston area. Unless he went down there and got rid of evidence.
I just thought of
the next like hours later.
I just thought of the next video topic we're gonna have to do. I'm not gonna share it here. It'll be a good one. But yeah, it will be interesting for sure, because I think that drive pre-crime is going to be everything, and I am extremely curious to know what some of the supporting evidence is that they're going to be bringing in with this expert in his testimony. What I'm hoping, and I said this the other day too, what I'm hoping is they're going to be using the background application data. They're going to be using app data that maybe we saw on that Garrett discovery record, the all trails or whatever, that maybe counts steps, that maybe tracks and counts what hikes you go on. I hope there's going to be solid evidence around pictures. I hope that there is going to be solid evidence around other audio, video gathering, data gathering. It would be very interesting. I'm very interested to know if there are any cameras in that area. I'm very interested to know all of that.
Right.
Do you think law enforcement knew?
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
What?
Do
I'm
you
agreeing
think-
with you.
Yeah. Do you think law enforcement knew of that area and him possibly being in that area
I don't.
before this alibi was put out?
So I think the only way they could have known about it is post PCA, because according to the PCA, it lays out a very
So
clear.
you think that law enforcement could know about this potential alibi location before this alibi was?
No, I
Really?
don't. I
Okay.
don't.
Okay.
But I'm saying pre PCA, there would have been no way they knew, because they give a very clear timeline. So there's no way they knew. Now, post PCA, between the PCA, him being arrested, and now, is there a possibility they could have known at all? Maybe, but I think it's slim to none.
Yeah. I can agree with that. Yeah. I don't think they knew either, and I think they're trying to play these things close to their chest. I think that's why we saw that they were trying to wait for the cast report to come out. Now, what I'm interested in, as we're tracking down this theoretical possibility that law enforcement and the prosecution and the state didn't know, is, did the defense have enough time then before they put out this alibi to thoroughly and effectively gather audio, video evidence, cameras, trail recorders, what the trail cams, like, did they check everything? And I don't know if I should share it. I bet people probably know about this. So, there's devices out there, okay, you guys, that look like a megaphone. You guys know what a megaphone is, right? And then you talk in it or whatever, and it's pretty big. Okay. Well, there's these devices out there that most people don't know about, but you can walk out on a trail or on a hike, or you can go into a hotel room or a house and you pull this button, and it tells you where there is electronic devices. So if I was the investigator and I'm investigating this alibi, I would have gone out there in that hiking range area and took my electronic locator thingamajig, and there is a name for it, but and I would have scanned for trail cams. I would have scanned for trail cams.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have one of those electronic locators. It not the cool one like that. Those ones are super expensive, but I have a smaller one, and they work really good. You can I don't know if you can buy them like just out in the public, like on Amazon. I'm sure you probably could, but for, let's say you're a woman and you travel a lot for business or something like that, and you tend to have the same kind of hotel room space, whatever, like, you know, every first Friday of the month, I stay at this hotel in this specific room, and you're worried that somebody could be doing something shady, like installing two-way mirrors or hidden cameras or something, you can get these and locate like cameras or any electronics.
I mean, I think you should take, if you can get that,
bugs.
you should do it at any hotel, no matter if you stay at similar depths. Like,
Yeah,
any
I think in a
hotel.
hotel you would probably use the electronic. So there, electronics put off a frequency, so like you can scan someone for a bug, you know, if they're trying to set you up.
Mhm.
And they have those bars, but you have to be within 6 inches of the electronic device. The big megaphone locator, you don't.
Okay.
It's like you'll get a weak signal and it'll tell you it has a weak signal, and as you walk closer, then you get a stronger signal. You know?
Yeah.
So for
the next thing we're going to talk real quick, it's not going to take too terribly long.
Well, we'll just do that last.
What?
We'll just do that last.
Do what last?
The next topic.
Okay.
We should close out Idaho4 first, so we're not like bouncing back and forth.
Okay, I wasn't going to bounce back and forth.
Okay. So just with the Idaho4 topic, do you have any other questions, updates, or anything in relation to this? I think I'm going to have more questions. I think that the more that I hear mainstream media talk about it, the more questions I'm going to have. And I hate to make it feel like we're dragging this alibi along and talking about it just endlessly. But as these questions arise, I have to share them and I have to talk about it. There's no way for me not to do it, you know?
Right.
So as I offered before, you guys, if you have technology related questions, if you have network related questions, post them under the videos and leave a comment on any of our social media. For everyone out there, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you hit that like button and leave comments under the videos. It goes a long way and helps us out a ton.
Yes. So I don't really have any more to talk about right now on the alibi, but I will say I've seen a lot of people digging into this expert on Twitter, looking at past cases he's testified in, and so far I haven't seen anything bad. I've seen everybody saying judges said he was, you know, a fantastic expert witness, and he was very convincing. I haven't seen anything bad except for that one thing Coffin Daffer posted where she said that his tech company or whatever was said to not be reliable or something like that. And that was one judge, and I have no idea what came of that, but you know, we'll look into it more. Maybe it'll be a good topic to bring up if we can, you know, dig into some of his past cases and get some more information. I'd be curious to listen to his podcast too, because if you guys didn't watch the true crime, the Thought Riot podcast recent episode from 2 nights ago, he has a podcast. This expert.
That's not a good thing. I wish he didn't. He's going to discredit himself doing that. I didn't know that.
It's not a podcast like ours, though.
Yeah, but
I don't think it's going to discredit
I'm
him.
going to have to watch, but that's one of the things that we've talked about many times is the fact that like a lot of people have asked us, hey, Brendan, why haven't you reached out to the defense to see if you can be an expert witness? Because of this show, I just couldn't. Impossible, because of how much we have questioned the law enforcement and investigations. That feels one-sided, and that's why people put us in the pro Bryan Kohberger bucket about innocence. So I don't think I would be an effective eyewitness because I'd I could too easily be manipulated to seem biased.
Yeah, it's like everyone said, it is him talking about his past work on other cases. He's not on there talking about any current cases. So I don't think it's going to be a problem. I really don't. He's not like his podcast is nothing like ours where he's keeping up with relevant, like current true crime. So I don't think it's going to be a problem personally, and again, he was a prosecutor witness until now, basically. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a problem, but we'll see. We'll see. So the next topic that we're going to get into is going to be Sebastian Rogers. Sebastian Rogers went missing on February, or he was at least reported missing February 26th. The case is a bit stagnant right now, it seems. He's a 15-year-old boy with autism and a chromosome deletion. This is the missing poster, as you guys can see, that's put up. It's a really sad situation. There's been a ton of drama in this case, a lot of finger pointing back and forth at the parents. Nobody knows what to really think. The police are saying there's no foul play. It's confusing. It's a mystery. I don't understand how there is some indication there was a scent trail, but the police are saying that it was a false scent. And Chris Proudfoot, apparently recently, you guys, these are the two updates I have. Chris Proudfoot is talking to Gray Hughes Investigates, for one, and we're going to talk a little bit about information Gray Hughes put out about his conversation with Chris Proudfoot. And the Uvalde Foundation for Kids has put out a statement on Sebastian Rogers' case. And we're going to talk about that because there's some very interesting things mentioned in their statement. And we're going to pull that up. So Chris Proudfoot talked to Gray Hughes and he took him. You guys, if you've been following the case, there's this video out there that Nick Bears, he's a reporter with News Channel 5 in the local area of Nashville. Okay. He put out a video where he says there's flashlights and they're circled and it has like subject 1, subject 2. This video is not what it seems. And Seth Rogers came out and said this a while ago. And I want to preface this by saying what information has already come out before Gray Hughes' information, because I think it's important. So Seth Rogers came out and said that him and Katie Proudfoot sat down with TBI and they showed them these videos. They showed him the video that we're talking about with the lights. And he came out on a show and said, and I'm trying to remember what show it was. It might have been the Pascal show or Justin on TikTok. It might have been one of those. He said what was in those videos was a trash truck going by.
Okay.
And those lights, that part is literally like a tiny part of the full picture. Tiny part. And these are lights in the distance.
Mm-hmm.
And he also said there was something wrong with the timestamp. The time wasn't moving. It was stuck at like 3-something a.m. and it stayed that way for like 15 minutes. It just didn't move. So the time, whatever clock was in this camera was busted. It wasn't working. There's some kind of glitch there. So he talked about that. And that's all he really said about that, is that, and that the cops are saying it's not relevant to this case. They're not considering it evidence. It doesn't show what you think it shows. It doesn't show flashlights. So then he said they showed him a video of Sebastian Rogers coming out of the restaurant that he was eating at with his mom the day that before he was reported missing, as a proof of life, because that's been Seth's big thing. This is the biological father. We only have the mom's word that he made it home from the restaurant.
Okay.
She's the last one that saw him. And we only have her word. There was no proof of life besides her word.
Yeah.
That he even went to bed that night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So they weren't able to find video or anything?
So the last piece of video they have of Sebastian
that's what-
alive
okay.
is leaving that restaurant,
Yep,
and Seth
yep,
got to
I
see it.
gotcha. Mhm.
And he talked about how happy it made him and everything. Well, Chris Proudfoot did not attend that meeting or watch those videos. He, unless there's a later meeting where he was shown them, the meeting where Katie and Seth, the biological parents of Sebastian, got to meet up and watch those, Chris wasn't there. But he's calling Gray Hughes and telling him what was in that video and explaining and giving him a rundown of where this trash truck is coming and going, where exactly those lights are coming from through some trees on these houses and all this stuff, and saying it's not relevant, and then giving him a detailed description of the dogs tracking the scent from the front door to the retention pond at that construction site.
Okay.
Take it. I mean, you guys can go watch a video, of course. I just don't know how Chris Proudfoot can give all of this specific detail if he wasn't the person sitting there watching the video. Unless he truly does have this really close relationship with the cops, as Katie said in a recent interview, and they're getting updates daily on the investigation. Maybe that's true. Maybe they are.
Yeah.
According to Seth, he's not getting any. He also told Gray Hughes that Seth's polygraph was inconclusive. I don't know how Chris Proudfoot would know this. Did he talk to Nancy Grace? Did Nancy Grace tell him that?
Right.
How does he know that? And he said it was because he fell asleep. Well, you guys, if you remember, we covered some Facebook posts where it was supposedly Seth Rogers who said that he fell asleep. But then we found out that Seth said on Crime Lines and Lies, their YouTube channel, that he doesn't have a Facebook account. So those posts are fake, where he talks about, falling asleep and all of that. And then there was somebody else claiming to work on the set of Nancy Grace, or had a friend who did or something, and that he was falling asleep and it was inconclusive and Nancy was super mad or something like that. So somebody's either spreading lies or it's true. But the only way we're going to know is once it comes out from the horse's mouth.
Right.
Like, we got to hear from the horse's mouth. We can't just accept all of these random ramblings. And the only way Chris, it's insane to me, Chris Proudfoot is saying that as a fact when it has not been put out there officially at all. He's going off of rumor online and then telling a podcaster as an official source of information, just as he's doing that with the footage. Like, he's an official source of information when he's really not.
Yeah.
And that's what bothered me with the narked divers thing. In that narked divers thing, where we believe it is him talking to the diver, he's saying, oh, I'm the only one who did a ride along with police. So I got the down low on information. So if you need information, I'm your guy, type of thing. Like, he's above everyone else and he's the official source of information. It really bugs me. Also, Chris Proudfoot said to Gray Hughes that he did pass his TBI polygraph. But again, something that hasn't come out. He's just making this claim that he recently did a polygraph with TBI, and that was because basically he went to TBI and said, should I do Nancy Grace's polygraph? And they were like, no. And he was like, okay. And he did one with TBI, and he's claiming that he passed it.
It's wild. Insane. Listen, there's already been an endless amount of red flags. And within those red flags, we've talked about this in length already, right? In length. And when you compare the possible outcomes of these situations, the only option you have to do is to count the amount of red flags there are and pursue that potential theory, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you look at those two, the birth mother and stepfather, listen, they have more red flags. Whether it feels offensive that we're questioning them, or it feels like it's one-sided, that the general public are siding with the birth father more than the birth mother and stepfather. I get it. I understand why you could feel like that. However, we still focus on what has the most red flags, right? I don't want any of them to be guilty. There's no benefit in any of them being guilty. I would love for Sebastian Rogers to come walking out of the woods and be like, yo, I just took off
I really
on my
hope so.
own, you know?
I hope that's the case.
But there's weird situations. Now, to clarify, do I think that the birth mother and stepfather could be making decisions and doing things without realizing what the social implications are and how the general public and true crime community would view it? Yeah, I think that's possible.
Yeah, leaving the home was a big one for me, though. It was a big one.
That is, it's massive.
And so
Huge.
pull up the Uvalde Foundation. This is the second update, you guys. And I think it is really odd. Chris Proudfoot keeps inserting himself in these areas where it's like, why are you doing this? No, I sent you the link.
In what?
Discord.
Okay.
Yeah, click on that so that we don't have to go through and find it.
Okay.
Now, the Uvalde Foundation, they came out and they started saying they were going to search for Sebastian after the United Cajun Navy announced they were going to pull out of the search. Do you remember that? The United Cajun Navy said they were being threatened, and even being some of them even like suffered some violence, like things being thrown at them or something like that. So they were going to pull back. Their family members were being threatened and they needed to pull out. Well, after that, the Uvalde Foundation announced they were going to start searching for Sebastian, but this is not their wheelhouse. Okay. They started after that Uvalde shooting, school shooting in Texas, where, do you remember these headlines where the cops didn't go in? All these kids are in there dying and the cops are sitting outside in SWAT gear doing nothing and stopping parents from going in. And there was that woman who ran in there and got her kids and saved her own kids. Well, this foundation started because of that. And that's their wheelhouse, is school shooter, like that kind of situation. Okay. That's their mission statement. A national nonviolence advocacy organization dedicated to ending school violence and enriching student lives. That's their mission statement. But they claim, in this, it pulled at their heartstrings. They needed to help find Sebastian. And with everything that was going on in this case, they wanted to help. So they announced they were going to help. And then recently there was they put out a tweet on Twitter. I think it was Twitter. I have the screenshot, where they basically implicated the parents, which was really, really choices. I don't know if they should have done that. I'm just being honest. Even if it's true, I still don't know that they should have done that.
Okay, give me the rundown. Like what are the details? How did they do that? Because I agree with you. I don't think a foundation should be singling out potential victims' family members. But
so this is it. And you guys, I can post all these screenshots to Twitter if you want me to. They're all on my phone, and it's going to be a whole process getting them to computer to share them with you on the screen. I'm sorry, I should have thought ahead, but I can post them to Twitter after we hop off here, and so you guys can see all these if it matters to you. So this is posted by the Uvalde Foundation. It says, new, we are now 100% convinced that the family of Sebastian Rogers knows far more than has been revealed publicly. We are also now equally convinced that recent developments indicate answers to be revealed soon. And that was like a few days ago. Okay. And then they announced they're pulling out of the search for Sebastian. And this is what we're going to look at on this website, is their statement. Can you pull it up?
Yeah.
And is it shared on the screen right now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It is. Okay. So they go through here. Basically, they posted that they were going to, they announced this on social media, but a bunch of inappropriate things were being tagged under it and messaged under it. So they decided to clarify on this instead of on social media because they're being attacked. Their credibility is being attacked. They're being called a scam. You know, people are hating on them. I don't understand. Why is this case bringing so much of that? Why is this case bringing so much of that? Threatening.
Listen,
scams.
Listen,
like,
I gotta be honest.
What is going on here?
I've heard it a lot, and because it's been said so much by every party, like everybody, I would really love to see evidence of the threatening, because I hear a lot of people saying they're being threatened, but I've never seen evidence of the threatening.
I agree.
And I don't feel like that's a wrong thing to ask for.
Like, I'm about to start pulling public records, okay? If you got threatened, you better have reported it to the cops, because I'm going to start feeling like it's a bunch of hot air. Like, who's getting threatened? Who's doing the threatening? Are the cops investigating these threats? Because I really hope they are, because I really feel like it's some kind of weird effort to make people afraid to search for Sebastian so this kid won't get found. It's like, it's this mass cloud of confusion being put over this case so that this little boy can't be found. It's confusing. The whole thing is just confusing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's drama. It's so bizarre.
That's why I'm saying I wish for the objective evidence of these things happening. And it's totally fair to expect that and ask for that. Listen, everything factual runs off of objective evidence. Okay. That doesn't mean objectivity is better than subjectivity. We've gone and had very lengthy conversations about that from every aspect, the social implications to the singular, micro, macro, investigative, and everything in between. But you know, it's, if you're making claims like you're being threatened, I just feel like there should be some kind of evidence.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. But everybody's claimed that in the situation. You guys, everybody. Every party to this case is claimed to be threatened and followed and stalked. It's bizarre. So this says, many have asked, why have we ceased our efforts for Sebastian? Many have also even gone on more recently to question the legitimacy of our involvement in this case, with recent theorists going as far as to challenge the legitimacy of both our hearts and efforts overall as a foundation. A rather entertaining amateur news report on our foundation from our beginnings, now almost 2 years ago, has even been circulated. So, I mean, they basically said it falls on, you know, the founders' shoulders to address this.
Okay.
It says our foundation is not law enforcement and became involved in this particular case due to its nature involving an amazing young man, Sebastian. While it is not parallel to our nonprofit work to prevent school violence as a nonprofit student and youth advocacy organization, we cannot turn a blind eye to his plight. Too many organizations and individuals do just that. We avoid getting involved because it's not our business, or we feel we are underqualified or too young or too worried of what others will think. Whatever the reasonings, they are unacceptable. So since they've been dedicated to protecting the youth and serving them, in this case, it didn't matter to us that it was not school violence related. It was a case involving a missing child, and they have resources. As individuals, we are mothers and fathers and family members beyond anything else. How could we remain silent? In an attempt to provide any help we could initially through our Stop Now Safety Response volunteer teams, we teamed our own network of volunteers and online crisis team members, including students themselves from our national network, searching, passing out flyers, making phone calls, and more. As this progressed from Tennessee to Mississippi to Alaska, we became increasingly convinced of the culpability of certain members of Sebastian's family in his disappearance. That factor has not changed, and we have made that stance public. Why? Just as holding parents accountable when their child enters a school and kills students is appropriate, the foundation asserts that holding family members publicly accountable when their child is endangered or harmed in any way due to their potential negligence or worse is also most appropriate. So they're saying just like holding the Crumblies accountable, holding parents who are neglectful or did something to their child is needed. Like that is appropriate. So now as this case has gravitated toward a criminal investigation, which we will not comment on, coupled with our now limited resources, our foundation initially elected to scale down our efforts and ultimately cease them. They literally just said this is gravitating towards a criminal investigation and they won't comment on it further.
I really hope that they're right.
Well, I have felt like that's where it's going. And I don't know if they're blowing hot air and if they have a really good PR person and they are justifying that claim I read earlier on Twitter, or if this is genuine. I mean,
listen, it could be genuinely their opinion. However,
it doesn't make it true.
As an institution, as a system in the US, it is not beneficial to you or anybody else if as a system you come out and take a stance against a situation when there are, listen, socially we have created 2 points of interest with Sebastian Rogers being missing. Okay, there are people questioning the father, there are people questioning the mother and the stepfather, and the only other option is like him running away or whatever. But from the beginning, people have been asking questions having to do with them, and in my opinion, the way that this was worded and the way they focused it makes it sound like they're leaning in one direction. Now, does it mean they are saying that? No, I am a huge advocate for only holding someone accountable to what they're saying. And it happens to us all the time with people that can't stand me because when I talk, I don't know. I talk confidently and I know my opinion and I know my stance and I want to debate through that, now you can't, because the way somebody is portraying something doesn't give anyone out there the right to say, oh, this person is actually doing this, or this person does this thing, and that goes the same here. They have not named specific people. Therefore, I don't believe it's okay for us. We can think tank it, but I don't think it's okay for us to be like, they are 100% saying it's this person.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they have an opinion based off of what they've seen since being involved. They're claiming that they, moved their search even up to Alaska and Mississippi. So, I mean,
until they put names on it, we shouldn't make the connections between the two.
You're right. They said people in the family. That's all they said.
Yeah.
And they're saying it's gravitating toward a criminal investigation. I'm curious why they think that, when the police have not said that. Now, if the police are onto somebody, they're not going to let them know. Okay. So maybe I have felt this way for a while. Do the police know more than they're saying? Are they on to somebody, but they're just not willing to put it out there and let them know they're on to them? So can you pull that back up for just a second? I really just want to say there has been a lot of allegations that this foundation is receiving monetary gain from being involved in Sebastian's case. And right here, they state they have not received not any donation since becoming involved in his case. Nothing. So it says they received less than $85 monthly in donations last year. So, I mean, that's all I wanted to bring up that had to do with it, really. I'm curious if they are willing to back that up. Because I mean, their reputation.
That's what I'm saying, though. Back what up?
That they haven't received any money so far.
Oh,
since being involved in his case.
yeah. I mean, so they haven't. They haven't. You can't come out here and lie like that and say that you haven't received any money when you have to claim all the money that's given to you.
Right.
You know, is this a
it's a nonprofit.
Okay. So nonprofits have very strict financial accountability and
it's registered and everything. Like they are legitimate. They are a legitimate organization, 401c or whatever.
Yeah.
So
they can't make that up.
Yeah, that's what they're claiming. They haven't received anything since being involved in this. And if that's the case, then I don't know why people are out here calling them a scam. I have no idea. I think it's interesting that they chose to make such a stance, though, like such a firm stance. Like, I don't know. It's much more information than anyone else is willing to say. And I just wonder, why isn't Seth out here saying this is moving to a criminal investigation? But I will tell you one thing that's odd. Seth is talking way less. He is not talking as much as he was. He used to be on a podcast like every night. And lately, I've hardly been seeing him speak.
I mean, he could just be going through loss. There's a lot of factors. I don't know. Or there's something going on.
I wondered, is he losing hope? Or is it because of all his health issues and his arm, because of all the stress? Or is it something's up? Something's going on behind the scenes that we're just not privy to yet.
I think anything could apply in this situation. Anything. And look, I kind of like the fact that they came out here and gave their opinion, because you know, one thing that I always like to suggest to people is, listen, you should never, ever apologize for having your own opinion. And it doesn't matter how you communicate that opinion, whether you're somebody that is more soft-spoken, your opinion matters just the same. Whether you're somebody like me, where apparently to some people I come off aggressive in the way that I talk, even though nobody's ever even seen me raise my voice on here or say one aggressive thing. People like that, their opinions equal the same as the person that's more passive and soft-spoken. I think every single opinion matters, and it's kind of cool being able to see a non-for-profit come out here focused on kids who are saying, hey, this is the direction we feel like this is going. Just want to let you know, it's interesting. It's interesting for sure. And
is Seth out there searching like he was still? I just wonder, or is he not? Because I don't know. I just have this feeling. I think something's coming soon, guys, and I think that they know that, because they even said that there's something coming. I definitely think there is. It feels that way. People's behaviors are changing. The Proudfoots are talking about hiring a PI. Something's going on. Something.
That's
just my feeling on it.
Interesting for sure. But yeah,
no, Uvalde aren't qualified in missing people, but they had resources and they wanted to help, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't know. You can take it with a grain of salt. I do. I take it with a grain of salt. I just feel like the changes in some of people's behavior, I feel like something's coming, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, It could be. Who knows? Who knows? Long-winded is great. Long-winded is great. Absolutely. And shout out to Bonnie coming through as a new member. That is incredible. We appreciate you. You are awesome. And yeah, we appreciate you.
Welcome. Welcome, welcome.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right, you guys. That is it for the True Crime Talk Show brought to you by Thought Riot Podcast. And my name is Brendan.
And I'm Malia. Thanks for being here. Everybody have a great night. We appreciate you more than you know. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, we appreciate all of you, every single one of you, even the people that don't appreciate us. We still appreciate you, okay? And hope that everything goes great for you. So, yeah, hit that thumbs up button, hit that rating button, those stars button, leave a comment under the video, and we got some marketing to do now. And yeah, thanks for hanging out with us, everybody, and we will be back again next time.
Yep. See you later.